two kinds of writing, creating and shaping?
There are two kinds of writing, and every piece of writing uses both kinds. It's not like somebody only does creating and somebody only does the shaping. Every writer has to get used to sort of a over and over again process. Creating, what I call creating, and it's just the stuff that comes out, what some people call the vomit draft, or the experience of just trying to imagine stuff and write down what you think, trying to put yourself in a scene or think what would they say next and write it down. You're accessing something that truly humanity has no idea what it is or where it comes from. I don't know if it's something that other creatures have, but people have this weird ability to make stuff up. It's essentially dreaming. You think of a story or a character or a moment or a scene or a line, and you can't really say where it comes from. This is, every artist in history has described the same experience of, I was trying to write this thing and this line just came to me, this scene, this twist, whatever it is, it just comes to you. And the more that you can get used to the need to let it happen however it happens, to create without any judgment at all, without any criticism, without any fear, saying anything that comes out of me at this moment is fine. And to be able to sustain that and do that for a bit of time and get something down and to get used to the experience of making that written down, feeling free with the words, even if they're bad, even if you're bad at typing, they're going to be misspelled. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you grab them from that mysterious place and you get them on the paper. That's creating. But then, almost always, it's going to need some shaping, some editing, some rethinking, writing, rewriting. And that second shaping part is where you say, clean up all the typos, break that long sentence into two short ones, make those two short ones into one long one. That word there, that's really vague. What do I mean when I say baffled? Baffled is actually pretty specific, but you know what I mean. That you start to think the way someone who's not you would read it, and whether they would get the experience you're trying to give them. And then you start to be mechanical about it. There's tricks you can use, putting the punchline at the end, putting the setup at the beginning, finding funny sounding words for funny lines. There's all these tricks of the trade. That goes in the shaping part. When you're shaping, you're spending a lot of time being critical. And trying to, when you're critical, what you're trying to do is, I like to think of critical as making the best of, not saying bad. I'm not critical of it. I am, wow, there's a funny bit in that, but this is getting in the way. So critically, I'm going to get rid of the stuff that's in the way of the good. I like the good. What's important about being critical is that you're doing it to improve what it is trying to be, not make it into something else. And certainly not just slam it down. The editing part of you, the rewriting part of you, is the second part of the process. Usually, it goes back and forth several times. Sometimes you get weirdly creative while you're editing. A new line comes to you, and then so you're sort of doing a micro switch, editing, oh, new line, creative, oh, back to editing. And that process goes over and over. Most writers I know, they tend to set aside a separate mood, I know I'm going to have to do 7 days of creating. I'm never going to look back at what I wrote, and I'm just going to, every day, set aside an hour, throw it down, and then go, make myself a nice lunch. Then for another 7 days, I'm going to look at what I wrote, take a big deep breath, start to break it down, start to do the work, stretch a little, go back to it. And that process over and over will make for great writing.
Do you think too many writers are focused on positive feedback instead of writing something that can actually be made?
That's interesting. Actually, I do think that we have developed a script reading industry within the industry. And that has sort of become a kind of, I don't know what the term is for, like if you've got a river and it suddenly gets like a little backwater and things get stuck in there instead of going with the flow, but there is that. People who are writing scripts are unfortunately mostly writing them to be judged by people whose jobs is to read them. That could be professional script readers and critics. It can also be anyone who is an executive or a producer. Their job is to read a script and try and figure out if that script is going to be producible. But still, they're working on the script. Many people who are in those fields don't know anything about production. They don't know anything about making a movie. And in fact, when I say movie, I mean movie or show or filmed entertainment of any kind. The most important thing for a screenwriter, because it's a particular kind of writer, is that you are writing for production. There is no value to your writing until it is produced. Someone may pay you money, which is value, in the sense that they think it's going to get produced. But truthfully, the value is if that script can be acted and directed and edited and released. And there's different qualities which are valuable to the people doing the acting, directing, editing than the readers. And you need to be able to please both, because you can't get to the production people without going through the readers. So I would say you need to learn all the advice about how to please a reader and what they're looking for and what the rules they have. And everybody tells you different rules, but know as many rules as you can. But still, it's very important to understand what happens when a script gets made. If you can, make it yourself. Write a script for the purpose of making it yourself, just so that you learn what happens when an actor has to say the lines. One of the things that happens is you'll learn most of the lines that you wrote were probably information. In other words, you were thinking, I need the audience to know this thing, so I'll write a line where somebody says it in some way. But what the actor and the director and the editor need is for the character to need to say something. Totally different. The character has to need to say the information. If they don't need to say it, it's not going to work for the actor and the director. The only way that you can learn that is by having actors and directors work with your script. If you are a DIY type of person, try it. Find a way to, at this point, you can do it on your phone. You can get a bunch of actors from the nearby community theater or college, write something that's appropriate to their ability of talent, and try it out. It's going to take you some time, it's going to be some heartache, there's going to be some arguments, but you will learn how your script is transformed by the production process, what works and doesn't work. And that is incredibly valuable to everyone who eventually will make the movie. And if you can learn that stuff and you can pretty much only learn it by doing it, then you will be a screenwriter who's making something not just to get approval, but to actually get made and be good.
So by running these lines by these actors and filming it with your phone, you're finding out what's filler in the dialogue and what is an actor or character wanting something, portraying that to another character who also wants something.
What it really will come down to is you'll learn what dramatic action is, because dialogue is action. When somebody speaks, actually in real life too, you're trying to do something. Like when you go to a counter and say, may I have a pack of cigarettes? Well, don't say that. say, may I have a club soda?
And a lottery ticket.
Lottery ticket, yeah. When you say that, it's because you're trying to accomplish something. When you say to someone, I love you, or I don't love you anymore, it's because you're trying to accomplish something. You're trying to make something happen or get something. You're trying to change your relationship with them. You're trying to get them to do something. All dialogue should be action. That's what an actor needs to play, and that's what a director needs to direct, is that. Almost every writer you'll meet, especially the ones who have not been in production, will think in terms of information. This dialogue is conveying this information. And they can make it sound nice, but if it's not actually action, if the character is not trying to change something in that moment, it's not going to play. By the way, the other thing I wanted to say was, I'm a fan of DIY, and I think that we should demystify it. The point of DIY filmmaking is mostly not to get your big break and to have it sell for $1 billion. It's to get experience. It's the same thing that the 10,000 hours. Malcolm Gladwell in oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the book now. Malcolm Gladwell publicized this phrase, outliers. Malcolm Gladwell's outliers, 10,000 hours is what it takes to become real mastery of any particular thing you're doing. It took me like 30,000 because I'm really stubborn and slow. But that process for a screenwriter has to include the production. And what happened was the indie industry blew up in the 80s and 90s over somebody makes a $3,000 movie and it sells $1 billion and they're great for the rest of their career. And so everyone started making movies for that aim. For every one of those that was huge, there were thousands that lost all their money. And the important thing to know about DIY is you're going to lose all your money. You might as well grab a lottery ticket to try and make money off of indie filmmaking. But that's not the point. The point is to do the work and get it to an audience, to get in production. And if you don't feel like DIYing yourself, there are people who are wanting to DIY who can't write. And they will love you if you just want to write and give it to them. So the important thing about that is the same thing that the 10,000 hours taught the Beatles when they went to Hamburg and they had to play, God knows, 8-hour sets every day for weeks and weeks on end. Supposedly, that's when they got good. The work they were doing was not necessarily their best work, but they were producing their work and putting it in front of an audience and doing it again the next day. That's the important thing that screenwriters are not given the opportunity to do. You're not going to be given that opportunity, so you should take it yourself. Do it in a nice, safe way. Like I said, if you're a writer and you don't feel like producing, find people out there. They want good scripts.
When you were at Temp for those 12 years, was there one story that you really clung to of your own writing that you thought, this is going to be it? Or were you constantly working on new things?
Well, I did have this one script that kept on getting passed around and people liked for those 10 years. And eventually it did sell. So that for those of you out there, yeah, 10 years, it can still sell. And frankly, after that 10 years after that, it was still being shown and people were showing interest in it. So that's one of the important things that you should remember. When you write something and you're thinking, this will be my break, it might be your break in the sense that people recognize your talent through it and they never make that, but it becomes, quote, a show script. That's a perfectly valuable thing. I got a lot of show scripts. I thought they were going to be big hits. I thought they were going to make me a fortune, but they were just something that somebody read and said, wow, you're a good writer. Why don't you write this thing that I think will make money? That's still a valid reason to write a script, and the script still exists. You know, somebody doesn't buy it. It's not like it gets burned. Somebody else later on might like it.